Well, here we are on a Sunday night, back from a, let's see, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 5 day hiatus. And we have very warm weather, obviously, and that is going to continue for another couple of days before we get a change. There are some hints that maybe, just maybe, we could get a little bit of a coastal low for the next weekend. We shall see about that. And we have a weather system that's out in the tropics that we're going to keep an eye on. So let's fasten our seatbelts and take a ride on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which you can support very easily if you shop on Amazon. You can use the referral link that's pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also under the descriptor to this podcast on YouTube. It's very simple. Just do your Amazon shopping by using our referral link to get you there. Amazon throws us back a little bit of coin for sending you there. And it also allows us to do the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, the live version, to be commercial free. And I know you like that. So thank you very much for those of you who have supported the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast by shopping on Amazon. And Tempest by Weatherflow. If you need a weather station, and Christmas is coming, so it'd make a great gift, get the weather station from Tempest, the Tempest weather system. Easy to install, runs off your mobile device. I have one. If I could do it, anybody can do it. And you'll be part of the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link for this is on the descriptor to this podcast on YouTube. Use the coupon code, which is autumn 2025, because if you do, you get 10% off. So, hi, everybody. It's just me tonight. Joe had some family issues to deal with, nothing serious. So he'll be back with us tomorrow night when we're on at 7:35 p.m. And I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. I'm going to switch camera angles here so this way I can watch the chat board while I'm talking to you. And there you go. So you can see me now. Just let me adjust the camera just a little bit. And well, hold on. Let me try it the other way. Yeah, I think that works. So again, hope you all had a very nice weekend. We had a decent weekend here, although it's been raining since mid-afternoon here in North Georgia. And meanwhile, in the Northeast and in the Mid-Atlantic states, a very warm, let's call it a late summer type day. And that has taken the temperatures this afternoon up well into the 80s in some places. We'll take a look at the high temperatures in just a moment. The weather models are kind of hinting at something maybe for next weekend. We'll see if that comes to pass. It's a kind of complicated situation. Although you kind of think that as calm as the weather has generally been over the last month, that something's bound to happen at some point. And we also have the system that I mentioned earlier that's out in the central tropical Atlantic, and that could wind up becoming a tropical depression or maybe even a tropical storm in the next several days or so. So while we're at it, let's get started, shall we? As Joe would say, surely. And here's let me get the map up here. Hold on just a second. I gotta remember I'm by myself tonight, so it's a little bit more difficult to maneuver because at least Joe can talk while I maneuver. So here are the high temperatures that we had for today, and the highs were, pretty impressive. I think I don't think anybody would deny the fact that getting up into the middle 80s for this time of year is no small feat, but we did exactly that. And the numbers that you see in and around New York City are mostly in the middle 80s. We did also wind up with a couple of spots that pushed the numbers even higher. Somerville in New Jersey, for example, got to 88. There you go. Let me get myself out of the way here. 88 for a high, 86 at LaGuardia, Long Island temperatures in the low 80s. Wasn't even much of a sea breeze today. And I'll widen out here so you can see it actually was a little bit cooler, just slightly cooler the further south you went, which is where the high pressure center was. All the warmer air, the very warm air, was as you went north. I mean, it made up into the middle 80s all the way up through upstate New York and into Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So, no question, it was a warm one. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have two more days like this coming up before we get a change and a significant change with the next cold front. You can see some of that chillier air is moving into the Dakotas. We've got freeze watches up there, and uh, also there's a couple. There's one county in south central Montana. There were more of these earlier, where we had winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories. Now there are just a couple left. But as far as anything else with respect to severe weather or flash flooding, we really don't have much going on across the nation, and that is something that has been, very common over the last several weeks. And here's a satellite loop tonight. It was just basically clear from Maine down into North Carolina, west of the Ohio Valley, and then southwest to Texas and off to the west coast. There's a little bit of a disturbance here. It's not going to develop into anything. It's a little upper trough that has kind of been sitting around along the central Gulf Coast, and it's been lifting up a little bit of tropical moisture northward. And you see the clouds across parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and here in Georgia and into Tennessee and South Carolina. There's even a little bit of rain that's been going on with that, but that all pretty much stays pinned to the south, at least for now. Some of that moisture is actually going to get involved if you look up to the northwest from Kansas through Iowa, Wisconsin, and if you look back further west, you can see there's a rotation there. There's a shortwave trough that's swinging through the plain states, and that's going to be pushing a cold front through here in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England and places to the south as well later on this week, probably later Tuesday night into early Wednesday. So until then, we're just going to be in pretty good shape. The only issue now with these longer nights that we have, and the fact that the dew points are going to be coming up, we did see last night and this morning areas of low clouds and patchy fog, and that probably will happen again in some places. Uh, Usually you see that happening in valley areas. Sometimes you see that happening along coastal areas or just inland of the coast. And I think you could certainly see something like that happen tonight and tomorrow morning. But then once the sun gets high enough into the sky, it all burns off, and then we go to sunshine. Radars are very quiet all the way down until you get to Georgia, and then you can see there are these areas of showers, a few heavier downpours, particularly in the southern half of the state. Also in the Florida Panhandle, some showers and even one or two rumbles of thunder. Across central Florida along the I-4 corridor, we have some showers and even a couple of thunderstorms there. Southeast Louisiana and southern Mississippi seeing some patchy showers. And then we have the showers and some storms with the next cold front, and you see them here running from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan through northwestern Wisconsin, through Iowa, into Nebraska and Kansas, but no yellow boxes, no severe thunderstorm watches no severe thunderstorm warnings that are up, and no flash flood warnings. And we also have no severe thunderstorm watch boxes that are up. Further to the west in Wyoming and in southern south central Montana, we see clusters of what is a cold rain, and in some cases, particularly in the higher ups, we're seeing snow in the mix there. A few showers of rain in southeastern Idaho, and also in northern Colorado, from Denver northward, along and west of the I-25 corridor. And everybody else is just enjoying some quiet time. Here's the severe weather look for tonight. Just a small area of marginal risk in central Kansas, nosing into Nebraska. Otherwise, it's just the general thunderstorm areas that you're seeing being indicated. And there's no severe weather that's forecast for tomorrow. As we take a look at what SPC is doing, just you see where they're indicating maybe the possibility of general thunderstorms. Nothing from Maine to northern portions of South Carolina, Georgia, and northern Alabama, though. And on day three, and this is for Tuesday into Wednesday, now this is where the weather front comes into play. I don't think we're going to see any showers on Tuesday dayside in eastern PA into New England and coastal New Jersey and then point south. But if you're in upstate and western New York, central and western Pennsylvania into Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, and Tennessee, I think those areas could possibly see showers and maybe one or two thunderstorms in the mix. But again, no severe thunderstorm activity is being indicated. Now, WPC, the weather prediction folks, and this is the rainfall forecast. Now, bear in mind that lately we've noticed that the forecast amounts for rain have, at least in our neck of the woods, have been a little on the high side, and they've tended to come in underneath this. I think their forecast of a sort of a broad brush of a half to three quarters of an inch from Virginia to Maine is pretty fair. A few pockets are being indicated where it could be a little bit more, but I'm just going to be cautious because of how it's played out lately, where these weather fronts have just not played up uh, according to what's been forecast by the models by the time they reach the coast. They've been generally inline producers of precipitation in areas inland, but something seems to happen when they get to the coast, and the models just don't seem to handle it quite as well. So for now, let's lean toward the low side of rainfall amounts, maybe a half an inch, maybe even a little bit less. But I think that's going to be the general case from New Brunswick and Maine down through Tennessee. There's an area in Kentucky and southern Illinois, southern Indiana, where you're talking about an inch and a half or maybe 2 inches. Also, you see some higher amounts in the coastal Carolinas, higher amounts for central and south Florida, particularly South Florida, where it could be maybe a few inches or more. A little stripe that runs from central Kansas through central Iowa and western Wisconsin of anywhere from three quarters of an inch to a little narrow area of an inch and a half plus from north central Kansas northeastward into southwestern Iowa. Not a whole lot going on in the Rockies. Mostly a quarter of an inch or less. A bit more in New Mexico, but everybody else is on the low side. And also, we're seeing things on the low side in western Washington and Oregon. We're talking about a tenth to a quarter of an inch over the next 7 days. So let's take a look at what's going on in the weather world here. We're going to start with the European model, and I think what I'm going to do is take a look at the upper air because this is, of course, the obvious driver of everything. We have a big ridge in the east. We have a big cutoff high off the North Carolina coast. I'm going to mark it all off for you so you can see. So there's the upper high. Here's the big ridge that's in the eastern part of the United States. And we have a fairly deep trough out in the west. So you know how it goes. If you've got a ridge in the east, you're going to have a trough in the west. If you've got a ridge in the west, you're going to wind up with a trough in the east. The ridge in the east has not been around much in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So it's popped up. It popped up this late last week and this weekend, and gradually, as we go through the first couple of days of the week, and particularly because you see the blue area up in central Canada down to the western Great Lakes, we have this upper trough here. Here are your westerlies, and the ridge by the time we get to Tuesday morning is very flat. And what I mean by that, it's been kind of squished down from what it was. So if you see where it is here, where we go to today, where you got this upper high sitting off the east coast, pushing all the upper air winds up into eastern Canada and beyond, it gradually flattens and settles down in the Gulf states and in the Gulf of Mexico, and that allows the westerlies to come down from the north. So ultimately, that short wave in Canada is going to push that weather front through, and you see it here by the time we get to Wednesday. The front's already comes through Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, and then we get the upper trough, and then the upper trough is going to pull out. Now you'll notice in the southeast that a cutoff low forms in Georgia by the time we get to Friday, and there's another short wave that drops down from central Canada into the Great Lakes that tries to get involved with all of this, and it makes for a very interesting upper low scenario here in the eastern part of the United States. So this is pointing, at least on the standpoint of the model of the European, of something that maybe will develop off the southeast coast of the U.S. Pressures are going to be low there all week because of how the surface is set up. You'll notice that the upper high is starting to flex Thursday and Friday over Texas and kind of pushing its way up through the eastern slopes of the Rockies and plains. So that allows the trough to drop into the east. Another trough is dropping into the western part of the U.S. This is a very interesting development here that the European is showing. Eventually, it all gets kicked out to the east because you have deep troughing coming into the west, and then the ridging that pops back up in the east after we pass Columbus Day. So whatever does develop is not going to hang around for more than a day or so, and before it ultimately gets kicked out to the east. Now, the other models are actually doing something similar, but they also are showing quite a few differences. And I'm going to show you the GFS. The GFS in that northern stream has a weaker shortwave. You see it there approaching Lake Superior. It still tries to do something there in the southeast. It also has a tropical storm. Actually, it has a hurricane recurving along 60 degrees west. So that might be part of this equation here. And the GFS wants to drop the upper low into the Carolinas and Georgia rather than lift it up. So that weaker shortwave on the GFS as opposed to what the European has, is the reason why the GFS does what it does, which is basically spins up a coastal low and then just kind of meanders it around and doesn't do anything definitive with it. You still ultimately wind up with a deep upper low that drops into the western part of the United States overall. And eventually the ridge tries to come back in the east in the longer haul, but it doesn't have much success. The ridge gets kind of flattened out, and you get into sort of a west to east zonal flow and then ultimately a stronger trough in the east later in the forecast period. I don't know how real all that is, but I certainly think that what we are looking at here for the next week is something that we can pay some attention to. I'm going to go back to the European and we'll just show you what the surface looks like. Let me back this away a bit. And by the way, there have been hints about this for several days now, and the European ensembles have also been picking up on this possibility. So here's the front. You of course are not going to see much of anything. The high is just sitting there off the New Jersey coast. Gradually it slides out when we get into Tuesday, and you see the development of showers and storms in parts of Kentucky and western Tennessee. The cold front is pushing eastward, so some of that Gulf moisture that's laying down in the Gulf states now kind of gets involved. And then we get into late Tuesday night, and the front pushes through this is at 1 a.m. Wednesday. So showers are just about reaching the coast around midnight or so. And then by daybreak or a little bit after daybreak, maybe lingering into mid morning from southeastern New England down into Virginia, you still could be winding up with some showers. And then we get this cool shot of a high that builds in. 1033 high in southeastern Canada is not too shabby for this time of year. It's a decent shot of cooler air. So we're going to go from low and middle 80s for highs to low and middle 60s for highs Wednesday and particularly Thursday and into Friday as this high settles overhead. Very much like what happened last week in terms of the highs and how the high pressure areas have behaved. Now, look at the southeast coast. You've got isobars there going from east to west, lower than normal pressures around the Bahamas and in southern Florida. And ultimately, you see the European does develop a low there. And again, it treats the upper air a bit differently than what the other models are doing. It develops a coastal low. And by the way, judging from the look of this, if you think back to a few weeks ago, we had that little low that developed off the southeast coast and wound up going into Chesapeake Bay, and they had 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts in the eastern Carolinas to the Delmarva Peninsula. I think this may wind up being something similar, where it sort of looks like it might be warm core, but it may not be. It may be more frontal. Either way, it does develop. It gets the low down to like a 995. That's a pretty, that's an impressive pressure for this time of year. And then because of with the structure of the upper low, it wants to pull it toward the coast, toward the New Jersey coast, into Atlantic City. I hate to use you make the comparison in almost Sandy-like fashion, but it is sort of like that idea. But it by no means is showing a Sandy-like storm. I want to make that clear. And also, it probably has the tropical system to the east, but it seems to be further east and doesn't do as much with it than the other models do. But this certainly would imply that we could get a significant rainfall come Saturday, later Saturday, Saturday night into next Sunday, and maybe even lingering into Columbus Day. So I think that's something certainly worth watching. And once that goes by, we'll dry out. Another weather front looks to approach when we get toward the weekend of the 18th and 19th. And then that comes through with some cooler air behind it. So we get back into a sort of normal west to east flow. Starting to see the models beginning to show a little bit of snow up in the Northern Rockies. So we know at least which way we're going in terms of the seasons. It's that slow descent down a flight of stairs uh, to get to colder temperatures and more winter-like weather over time. That is part of the process as we move through the autumn months. Let's look at. Let me take a look at what the tropics are doing. Here's the North Atlantic. By the way, when with respect to this tropical system that the models, you can see the European has got this disturbance out there, a little 10-10 low or so, spinning up to some extent, but it doesn't really develop it very much. Takes it over the northern Leeward Islands, and then it just gets absorbed by the low in the southeast. So that's one possibility. We look at the European, I'm sorry, we look at the GFS, and the GFS actually develops this system a bit more and it takes it just touches the northern Leeward Islands, but it remains a distinct entity, and it treats the coastal low a bit differently. You see how it takes it out to the northeast, and then kind of splits it in two. So you got three lows here. You got a strong tropical storm or a minimal hurricane out at 33 and about 32 and a half, 33 and about 60. And then you got another low that's sitting at 37.3 and 68.5, and yet another low at 33.7 and 74.5. It's another one of these messy situations in terms of trying to forecast it. It still tries to GFS even with all of this extra complication, still tries to pivot the coastal lows back northwestward uh, as we move into early a week from now, early next week. The icon model is kind of reminded me when I looked at the icon today, sort of looked to me like what just happened with Imelda, although this low is a little further north and the 18Z icon only goes out to 120 hours. But I'll switch it back to the 12Z so we can get an extra 60 hours out of it. And they kind of do this Fujiwara dance here. The icon actually develops the tropical system into a major hurricane. It's got a strong non-tropical low or maybe a subtropical low sitting well southeast of the North Carolina coast, and it just kind of leaves it there. So a lot of complications here. I mean, it would seem to me that we've gone so long without seeing anything of consequence that it would not shock me. And by the way, for those of you who are fans of the European AI, we can take a look at that. And the European AI is actually pretty bullish here. It's got a fairly wrapped up gale center that develops off the southeast coast. Really doesn't do much of anything with the tropical system, and then wraps it into eastern North Carolina, takes it up into Chesapeake Bay before it ultimately weakens and moves out to the east. So, it certainly would imply that come next Saturday night and Sunday that we could see gales and some heavy rain moving up the coast until the low plays itself out and then moves out off to the east. Now, as far as that tropical disturbance is concerned, the tropical weather outlook hasn't really changed. It's still the same from what it was earlier. Environmental conditions appear conducive for additional development. And right now, all we're seeing out there is disorganized showers and thunderstorms. But it has a medium chance of 50% over the next 48 hours to develop and a 70% chance to develop over the next 7 days. Let me find my camera. Where am I? There I am. So here we go. Chuck Cardillo, thank you so much for hitting Super Chat tonight. Most appreciated. You have a burn ban. Yes. It's been so bone dry. Why am I not surprised that you got a burn ban? But there you go. We gotta get some rain in here. I mean, this pattern it's been so dry for so long overall. You could probably count on one hand the number of days that we've had rain on since mid-August. I mean, and when we've gotten rain, it really hasn't amounted to too much, or if it has, it would be in a situation where stuff has just run off, and that is, that is just about that. Just going to back up here because I see Miss Fowler wants me to talk about the Pacific, so let's do that. Let's go to the Eastern Pacific here, where we have two hurricanes right now, Octave and Priscilla. Octave, well, Priscilla is the one that's closest, and it's producing heavy rains and gusty winds for the coastal portions of southwestern Mexico. And it's forecast to stay a hurricane and move basically northwest for the next 5 days, passing well to the east of the Baja Peninsula. I know you care about that. We do have tropical storm watches, warnings. I'm sorry, tropical storm watches up for a small portion of the south coast of Mexico there. But most of this is really offshore in terms of the development. It's just that when we look at it on the satellite, and I'll bring up the Pacific satellite here so we can see it. This is actually a fairly big system. Let's take a look and see if it shows up on the tropical Pacific one, if it's going to load it for me. Okay, here we go. Uh, so this is, you can see the whole tropical Pacific here, so we can see both storms. On the far right, I'll move the picture over there. There you go. On the far right is Priscilla, and you can see how large it is in terms of its moisture field. I mean, it's really big. And Octave is to the left of that, a bit more developed, a little tighter, a little smaller, and it's probably going to, it should loop here if it loads enough frames, but uh, uh, usually on the Pacific side, so I don't use it very often. It takes a little while for all the frames to load up. But there you go. You got your two air. Oh, finally, and of course there's there's blank frames, so there's missing shots here. Let me come back to, which it's not letting me do. Let's go back to the U.S. Actually, what I could do is I'll pull up the full disk of the East because that gives you a good view of both sides. Although I'm sure we're going to have that white screen coming up, and yeah, they're slow. These loops are slow to load because of either strain on the system or maybe some impacts regarding the shutdown. In fact, come on, there you go. Now you see Priscilla a bit better there, how much coverage it has. You can also see the disturbed weather in the tropical Atlantic. It's not the first batch that's near the Leeward Islands. It's the area that's further west, sorry, further east. It's this area here. Has a little bit of curvature, but disorganized showers and storms. You know, here's Priscilla and here's Octave over there and Priscilla over here. So they are doing their thing. And with respect to Octave, let's take a look at that one and see what that's doing, where that's going to be mostly, an ocean issue in the Pacific. But here you go. It's actually forecast. You don't see this too often. Although now that we're getting into October, and you also have a deep trough off the west coast, you're actually seeing it moving eastward, which is unusual. Usually they move west or west northwest forever. This is out at 125 degrees west. It's 16 north and 123.3 is a hurricane. Forecast to weaken to a tropical storm, and it just sort of meanders eastward. So, I mean, eventually it's going to probably get pulled into the circulation of Priscilla as that one moves on up to the northwest. So let me get back to me. Hang on a second. Let's where am I? There we go. I'm here. See, when Joe's here, while he's talking, I can do like all the switching and maneuvering. But he's not here tonight, as I said. For those of you tuned in late, he had some family issues to deal with. Nothing serious. But he will be back here tomorrow. Um, I'm just trying to see everybody on the chat board tonight. It's always good to see the regular crowd here, and welcome to those of you who are watching the show in the background. You can always participate in the chat. or send comments or make comments on my on the show. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss us. We're here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35. We just took a little short vacation this week because the weather was just so snoozy. But we plan to have a full regular schedule this week, Sunday through Thursday at 7:35. And of course, if the models are correct and start trying to show something for next weekend, particularly of the magnitude of what the European model has, we may wind up adding shows this week on Friday and Saturday. I went nowhere, Mr. Fairchild. I stayed home. I had things to do. I just did my usual, day-to-day routine. So yeah, I really didn't I really didn't go anywhere during my time off. The weather was nice. I got to enjoy the mountains here, which is always a lot of fun, especially here in the fall because the leaves are changing. We already have some color, and autumn is just a beautiful time of year here in the North Georgia mountains. There's lots to do. There's a lot of local railroads that run all sorts of trips through the mountains so that you can see the leaf changes and go to the waterfalls and a lot of hiking, a lot of hiking trails. There's the Appalachian Trail starts. Actually, the Appalachian Trail starts not too far from where I live. So if you've never done that, if you've never been down to the Southern Appalachians from the Carolinas to Georgia, try it. It's beautiful country. I don't think most people are aware of just how beautiful parts of the United States are because they really don't. You don't often hear about places like where I am. So trust me on this. I didn't get to fish this week. I actually am probably going to do a fishing trip again in early December when I got my New York friends coming down for a couple of days. So that might be something that is in the offing. William Uber, how's the snow and ice coverage in the Northern Hemisphere? All right, let me see if I could find anything. We're probably not going to see. Excuse me. Northern Hemisphere snow cover. Let's see what we got. Um, all right, so this is the latest map. Actually, it's not bad. Um, let me bring this up on the screen here. This is you get to see. Okay, I'm just bear with me here when I'm switching. Trying to switch from me to. Okay, why is it not trying to? Okay, I see what the problem is. It's me again. Let me move me out and let's bring up the snow. So there you go. So this is the snow cover. It's as of today, Sunday, the 5th of October. I'll make it a little bigger so you can see. And the snow cover across Eurasia, the snow cover build is actually pretty impressive. Uh, especially on the western flank of this, you often look at Western Siberia as a tip off as far as Siberian snow cover is concerned. The theory is that early snow cover growth and extensive snow cover growth is a precursor to colder winters, particularly in the eastern part of the United States. That idea actually worked for a number of years, but for the last 5 or 6 years, it really has not worked very well. Actually, even longer than that. It was one of these things where once, and I find that there's a lot of truth to this, but whether people try to look for a silver bullet when it comes to forecasting, what I mean by that is some kind of indicator that's sort of, foolproof. If the indicator says this, the outcome will be that. Once enough people learn about it and start using it, 99 times out of 100, that indicator stops working. So, uh, it was great until maybe about, you know, I don't know, maybe 2018 or so or 2019, and then it just kind of, or even maybe even stopped working earlier than that. But there you go. I mean, if this is something we always watch every year around this time through the month of October, it's the snow cover growth in October that is watched by a number of chartists and climatologists, and you're seeing it as I show you on the map. Again, pretty expensive. Not so much in North America yet. Seeing a little bit in northern Alaska and in northernmost Canada, but we don't see anything further south. Maybe little some spots in British Columbia and some of the mountains there. I'm sure we're going to see this pick up over time. We'll. I'm going to take a look at the. Uh, just want to see if I can get the. No, they don't have it here on this map. So let's look at the GFS, and we'll take a look at Asia to see at least in terms of snowfall what's going to happen over the next 15 the next 2 weeks. The forecast for, and I'll roll it through. You see the snow, actually snow cover does, actual snowfall does increase. And again, the western flank of this, I think, again, is most important to see it developing in western Siberia and in easternmost Europe uh, by the middle of the month and beyond is impressive. Now, this is snowfall. How much of that stays on the ground is another question, but this is what we have, and no latex streams. I do not have a cold. I'm just a little dry right now from talking for the last 40 minutes, so gonna need to get some water. All right, so I think we've pretty well covered everything here. Whoops, back to making my errors again. Where's my camera? What did I do with it? No, there we go. Here I am. So, let's see. It was the warm blob holding on in northwest of Hawaii. We need to stay for that to stay in place. I haven't honestly looked at it, Harold. I'll take a look at it, tomorrow, and maybe I'll bring it up tomorrow night on the show. But just because it's there now doesn't mean it's going to be there 2 months from now. Just bear that in mind. If you look at warmer than normal water temperatures in the Northeast Pacific, the idea is that that tends to favor higher than normal pressures there, which favors colder air in the east. That's all nice in theory, but again, because it's like that now, doesn't mean it's going to be like that come November, December, January, and February. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. All right, folks. I think we're going to wrap it up here. Again, Joe Rayo back tomorrow night with me, so we'll be back at 7:35 p.m. Eastern time. Don't forget, if you want to support the show, you can do so if you shop on Amazon. Just use our referral link to take you there. You don't have to buy anything. That when you get to the referral link and you'll see some stuff, you don't have to buy any of that stuff. You can just go to whatever it is, search for whatever it is you're looking for, and Amazon again throws us back a little bit of coin, which allows us to keep the podcast commercial free, other than this one. And then, of course, if again, if you're looking, and the link, by the way, is on the top of the chat board. And if you're interested in a weather station, we have Tempest by Weatherflow, the Tempest Weather Station. The link for that is on the descriptor to this podcast on YouTube. And there's a coupon code there, summer 2025. You get 10% off on anything you purchase from the Tempest website. Okay, so everybody have a great night. Hope your football team won today. I won my fantasy football game today. I actually won big, so I'm kind of happy. I'm 4-1. So unlike the Jets, which are 0-5, and unlike the Giants, who are 1-4, but no matter. We'll see you everybody tomorrow night at the regular time, 7:35 p.m. Good night, everybody.